Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
Prime Minister Perry Christie slams Free National Movement leader Dr. Hubert Minnis. That story straight ahead.
The Minister of State for Finance addresses backlash following his convention speech. That story is coming up straight ahead.
Police probe an early morning fire at the Magistrates Court complex. Plus, the government's lawyers dealing with terrorist claims made on MSNBC. Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle WALKINE. Topping news tonight, Prime Minister Perry Christie has dismissed Dr. Hubert Minnis as a minor player in Parliament who allowed Long Island MP Loretta Butler Turner to take his job. Christie clapped back today at the FNM leader who said Christie welcomed former FNM members into the fold because he is desperate to hold on to power. However, the Prime Minister urged Minnis to keep quiet. Jasmine Brown reports.
Christie fired back at Dr. Minnis, saying he's tried to be as nice as possible to the FNM leader. However, he says this time he has to respond, calling his comments silly.
Tell Minnis don't do that. I try to give Minnis advice. You know, he's new and he's young in leadership, and I try to give him advice. Sometimes he takes it and sometimes he doesn't.
On the final night of the Progressive Liberal Party's National Convention, former FNM MPs Lester Turnquest, Byron Woodside, and Anthony Miller joined Christie on stage and pledged their support to the newly re-elected PLP leader. Minnis said the display was a desperate attempt by the Progressive Liberal Party to gain political points ahead of the general election. Well, Christie clapped back, asserting the only person who was desperate is Dr. Minnis.
Minnis has lost a position as leader of the opposition. Minnis has lost the membership in the House of Assembly. He is a minor player in the House of Assembly. He should try his best to keep quiet so that we do not highlight the levels of inadequacies and ineffectiveness that is plaguing him. We have tried our best to allow our democracy to flourish. We have not spoken ill of him, even though from a factual point of view we can.
Christie says he has been nothing but nice to the FNM leader, even going as far as warning Minnis about plans to oust him as opposition leader last year.
I don't want to be able to say what Mr. Minnis' real difficulty is, because Loretta Butler has taken his job from him. He ought to have seen it coming. I knew it was coming. I even warned him that they'd made an effort to go to the government house. But he's so innocent and naive, that he allows these things to happen, and then he finds himself in an impossible position of trying to strike out at people who are sitting and smiling at him. And that's what I'm doing. I'm sitting and smiling at him.
As for whether those former FNMs have been offered high-profile jobs in exchange for their support, Christie said this.
You know, if they're unemployed, I would love to give them jobs. Quite frankly, if they're unemployed. But, you know, Lester Turnquest and all those MPs, I think Anthony Miller is working for us. Allen is the chairman of the Urban Renewal, co-chair of Urban Renewal, but he's been with us for 2 elections, or 3 for that matter. I don't know that Lester Turnquest has never asked me for a job. He's never asked me for anything for that matter.
And Ivon Ingram.
Ivon Ingram, I would be delighted to give him a job. He was such a major critic of mine. He's a talented writer. I think I have authorized his employment. I have no question about that. But if you are saying that people join me because of a job, no. Okay. No, I think you are demeaning them by saying that.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Thanks, Jasmine. Well, authorities say an early morning blaze that severely damaged the entrance to the multi-million-dollar Magistrates Court complex was a deliberate attempt to cause massive destruction and subvert the course of justice. Police received reports of a fire at the Nassau Street complex shortly before 6 a.m. today. Assistant Commissioner of Police Stephen Dean held a news conference this afternoon to update the public on the progress of their investigation.
What we can tell you as a result of what we have discovered so far, that this was a deliberate attempt to cause massive destruction to this court complex. It was an attempt to pervert the course of justice. But what we can tell you, that we are following some significant leads. We believe that we can bring this matter to resolution.
The fire alarm could be heard blaring in the background as police officials inspected the charred door and the other damage, along with Chief Justice Sir Hartman Longley. Dean urged Nassau Street residents who may have seen or heard anything this morning to come forward with information. He also sent this warning to the alleged arsonists.
We will find you. We have an idea just who you are. So we are giving you the first opportunity to turn yourself in and surrender so that justice could be served. We cannot allow the situation that will be happening in our country. The police will not allow it to happen. The citizens will not allow this to happen.
The $6.5 million state-of-the-art complex was completed in late 2011. Dean says the fire did not disrupt proceedings at the court today, and repairs are already underway.
This act did not stop the running of the court today. So business was as usual today. So if those persons were determined to distort or cause the court not to run today, they have failed in their attempts. And I can tell you, additionally, what has happened here, because of the dedicated men and women of the Royal Bahamas Police Force, we immediately put a work crew here.
Well, Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell revealed today that the Bahamas government's lawyers have now gotten involved in following comments made by an MSNBC contributor who alleged that the Bahamas has more terrorist members than any other country. Malcolm Nance made the controversial comments on Saturday while appearing as a guest on MSNBC's AM Joy to discuss the ban which affects citizens from Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen.
We haven't banned terrorists from Brazil. ISIS has dozens of members from Brazil, or Trinidad, or the Bahamas, who have more terrorist members than any of those other countries.
Mitchell, who dismissed the report as rubbish, suggested it has now become a legal matter.
The U.S. has indicated that they have no information which supports what that individual said, and I understand that he retracted what he said in any event. Our lawyers are dealing with the matter in the U.S., and I think I'll have more to say once that's been done. But suffice it to say, I'll just repeat what I said in the statement. There is no evidence that that is correct and true, and the person himself has backed off the statement.
Well, after his comments triggered widespread backlash on social media, Nance tweeted, "Done. A report on Brussels ISIS attacker with Bahamian passport was refuted. Apologies." However, Mitchell called the apology dismissive. He also demanded that an MSNBC issue an apology.
We believe that MSNBC itself ought to formally back off the statement because it was said in an offhand manner. The tweet, which was the response, is not sufficient in our view because it's dismissive. And he also goes on at another point to make some other allegations which were irrelevant to this point. So there's no basis, as far as we know, to this. Spoken to all the security officials in this country and the U.S. government, and that's the indication we have, and I think that's what it is.
Well, Mitchell's comments came during a news conference for the signing of an AUTEC lease renewal between the Bahamas and U.S. governments. U.S. Embassy Charge d'Affaires Lisa Johnson did not comment directly on Nance's comments at the news conference, but said U.S.-Bahamas relations have not changed.
There's no change in the U.S.-Bahamas bilateral relationship, and we're continuing to work on the same issues here that we have always worked on security, on commerce, on travel and tourism. The one change is the executive order that was released on Friday does apply worldwide with respect to non-immigrant visas. So that is being implemented at the airport here as it is around the world.
Well, Minister of State for Finance Michael Alkitis is defending his speech surrounding the spending of VAT money at the recent PLP convention. According to Alkitis, the speech was written to cater to the audience of the convention. GIORGIO BAIN reports.
The Minister of State for Finance, Michael Halkitis, is addressing a heap of skepticism following his convention speech surrounding the whereabouts of VAT funds. According to Halkitis, he'll do his endeavor best to prove that he's right about where the VAT money is going. Following Halkitis' speech at the PLP convention last week, he was heavily criticized on social media. However, he insisted today that due to a short time frame given to speakers to deliver their speeches and the audience present, he did his best to give a short list of VAT expenditure.
What I sought to do at the convention, given the time that you have and given the audience that you're speaking to, was to just give some real examples of the fact that because we have implemented VAT, because we have a better revenue system now, that we can actually provide some of the services and some of the goods that we need to provide to the Bahamian public.
Leaders of the Free National Movement and Democratic National Alliance questioned whether VAT revenue really funded various government initiatives, considering the Christie administration has maintained that it would be used to put a dent in the deficit. Halkitis gave this response.
I understand there was some question as to, okay, if you borrow money for the boats or if you borrow money for the planes, how can you say that's VAT money? But because we have the financial wherewithal, we can approach these financial institutions. And the fact of the matter is, in the case of the Defense Force, we pay directly. The government of Bahamas is paying the loan, so in effect we are paying. We have a 12-year loan that we'll be paying, and some of those funds will be VAT funds.
The Minister of State for Finance also dismissed talk of the rate of taxation being increased and even suggested that it could be cut from the 7.5%.
We can maintain all of our rates. In fact, we can actually begin to reduce rates if we tighten up on some of the things that are already on the books. And we have a revenue task force now in place that consists of multi-agencies from customs to business license, property tax, who are working to close some of the loopholes, bring everybody into the system, so we're not looking at all to raise any rates. As a matter of fact, our next move would be to continue to gradually bring down rates.
Reporting for our news, I'm GIORGIO BAIN.
Thanks, Giorgio. Still to come on our news, the Customs and Immigration Union president accuses the labor minister of playing games and union busting. Plus, why the PM says voters should rush to register. The details are after this break.